Everything started when I was 8 years old. I was playing a game with my older brother. After a while, I felt thirsty. I stood up, intending to go to the kitchen to get something to drink. As I was walking towards the fridge, through the window, I caught a glimpse of a strange figure in the forest. I thought it was just a tree branch or something. So I didn't pay much attention to it, grabbed my drink, and went back to the living room to continue playing with my brother. That night, as I was sleeping soundly, I was awakened by the crack of a breaking branch outside the window. At that moment, with my young and innocent mind, I was terrified. I tiptoed out of bed, pulled the curtain aside, and looked outside. It was the same shadow, exactly like the one I had seen earlier. There was nothing unusual about it, so I gradually calmed down, went back to bed, and continued sleeping. The next morning when I woke up, I thought everything from the night before was just a dream. But soon I realized I was wrong. After getting up, I went to the kitchen and made myself a big bowl of cereal. Just as I was about to enjoy my breakfast, my stomach suddenly churned violently. My mouth turned bitter, and I felt something sour rising up, twisting my insides as if someone was squeezing them tight. I rushed to the bathroom and threw up. What came out was a thick, greenish mucus. But I hadn't eaten much the day before. How could this be? Hearing the commotion, my mom ran in, helped me clean up, and quickly took me to the hospital. The doctors ran multiple tests, but the results showed nothing abnormal. They told us to go home and monitor my condition for a few days, assuring us that everything would probably be fine. For the next few months, my health seemed perfectly normal. Then one day, my cousin came over to play. The two of us ran to the backyard, jumping on the trampoline. Suddenly, I felt sick to my stomach again, but this time, it was a little different. I didn't throw up, just felt nauseous and extremely uncomfortable. I quickly ran inside to tell my mom. She said I was probably experiencing low blood sugar and told me to eat something, saying I would feel better. After my cousin left, everything returned to normal, as if nothing had ever happened. But that night, I was awakened again by the sound of a branch snapping outside the window. This time, the sight outside the window made my blood run cold. It was the silhouette of a woman. I was so terrified that I screamed at the top of my lungs. Hearing my scream, my parents rushed into my room. They reassured me while calling for emergency help. After that, I must have blacked out, because when I opened my eyes, I was lying in a hospital bed. I had to stay in the hospital for 2 days before fully recovering. For the next several years, that terrifying woman never appeared again. Until I was 16. My dad organized an overseas trip for his company's employees, and our family was invited to join. Excited, I packed my luggage. But out of nowhere, an unexplainable sense of anxiety washed over me. I thought to myself, no way. Immediately, I turned to look out the window and froze in horror. After all these years, the woman had returned. She was standing in the same spot as before, wearing a long, tattered dress, staring straight at me. And this time, in broad daylight, I could see her face clearly. She had no hair, no eyes, just like when I was 8 years old. I couldn't move. My entire body was overwhelmed with excruciating pain. I heard my mother calling my name, but I couldn't respond. After a while, my mother lost patience and opened my bedroom door. As soon as she stepped in, she saw me collapsed on the floor, convulsing. She screamed in panic, and then something even more bizarre happened. My dad, hearing the commotion, ran into the room. But by then, my mother was standing motionless by the window, muttering over and over, "Don't call the police." She just wants to play with us. Don't scare her away." I thought my mother had lost her mind from fear. But when the police arrived, she suddenly stopped repeating those words, and she returned to normal. After that, I was rushed to the emergency room. Every necessary test was conducted, yet the doctors still concluded everything is normal. Years later, I graduated and started working. One night, after finishing a late shift, I was locking up and preparing to go home. Suddenly, that feeling came again, the feeling of being watched. A chilling sensation ran down my spine. I turned around, and sure enough, she was there, the eyeless woman. I told myself, this is just a dream. It has to be a dream. But this time, I knew I collapsed. When I woke up, police lights were flashing. Medical staff told me that my heart had stopped beating for at least 60 seconds. The woman never appeared again after that incident. Maybe, finally, she had achieved her goal. She had killed me.